So many people are struggling or not living the life they want to live because they're not allowing the universe to come in and do what it was always intended to do. And essentially, so many of us are stepping on the toes of the universe. And so in this video, I want to go over how you can let basically the universe do the heavy lifting that you think you need to do. Allow the universe to do the work for you, because it was always meant to do certain things for us that we, for some reason, have been taught or conditioned into believing we have to do. And it's what leads to so much struggle, so much resistance that's completely unnecessary, by the way. So I'm going to be touching on what these things are and some things you can do to allow the universe to come in and do the work for you in some really big areas. So that's coming up next. Now, before we jump into it, my name is Dave and this is HeartSpace, where I'm helping you along your heart path. If you are new to the channel, just wanted to give you that little introduction. Now, something else that I really recommend and invite you to get is my free course, which you can get down below for free. It's a full-blown video course that can help invite more co-creation, more synchronicities, more positive confirmations, more miracles into your life, and really start to prime you, if you do this course, to allow those things in. And again, it's my gift to you, absolutely free, if you are open to receiving that. So I'll give you that down below. Now let's jump into the 3 things I have for you today that can help you allow the universe to do a lot of heavy lifting for you. And the great thing about it is it's not some secret thing that's like only available to some people. This, in my eyes, is what the process was always intended to be, and we've just been conditioned into like this hustle, work, I'll sleep when I'm dead type of culture or similar ideas that we've been taken away from this. But when you start applying this in your life, not only are you going to notice, wow, things are so much easier, I'm also receiving more, and this feels way more natural. So without further ado, let's jump into it, starting in reverse order with number 3. Now, number 3 is the first step really in any growth process in my eyes, or at least a really good first step. And first is to expand your awareness of how things actually work. You see, if people understood how the processes of the universe, these universal principles and laws worked, they wouldn't do half the things that they are doing, because they would realize that not only is it counterintuitive, because it is definitely counter to your intuition, but it's counterproductive. So many people are doing certain things because they've always done them that way, or they've observed other people doing it that way, or they've been taught to do things that way. Again, in my eyes, by people who either did not have your best interest at heart, or by people who have just been instructed by those people who did not have your best interest at heart, thinking again that this is the way that things need to be done. But when you expand your awareness of how the universe actually works, when you expand your awareness of that which you actually are, it completely changes the game and inspires you to start learning how to move differently, because you start to realize the way we've been taught to move, the way we've been taught to do things in most areas of our life is so counterproductive if our goal is to live a fulfilled life, or if our goal is to grow more into what we are, or if our goal is just to be happy, joyful, peaceful, experience more great things in life, experience more of what we are in this human form, which is, again, getting a little more advanced, but essentially experiencing that which we are through these bodies. But even that awareness of that which we are and what we're connected to and everything else is lost on most people. And if you understand that, even to a little degree, I would say you are aware already more than most people. But again, the more you expand your awareness of how these things work, the more you watch my channel, for example, and start to get these understandings, the more you watch other people who have tapped into this and get those understandings, and then you start applying those things, because through experience, it's one of the best teachers. Experience is always going to be the best teacher, which we'll get into. But when you understand these principles and laws more, it makes it easier for you to apply them. You're starting to get what's called mind-heart coherence. You see, you are a 3-part being. A lot of people like to throw out their mind and sometimes even their body when going through spiritual development, which in my eyes is a fool's errand, because you are here as the 3-part being. You can call it mind, body, and spirit. Read the Law of One, mind, body, spirit complex, which is what beings at much higher levels of consciousness will say, because if I use a terminology from Law of One, if you haven't read it, you won't understand it, and I don't have time to explain it. But essentially, that's what they call us, mind, body, spirit complexes, because we are all 3, right? So you need to have your mind and heart in coherence with this awareness, with what you're doing, for the best results. It was intended that way. But again, a lot of us have been taught to do this in ways that are completely inefficient, or go against our nature. For example, allowing the mind to dominate and be the primary driving force for us over, say, the heart. Ultimately, to give you a quick idea of awareness of how this works, or at least in my eyes, what I've experienced and found is very helpful, and how I've found with so many high-level mentors and coaches and also people I've worked with, is you are in a co-creative process. There is a part of the process that's the universe's job, and it does naturally and will continue to do, but gets blocked if we resist it through trying to essentially step on its toes or offering resistance in other ways. And there is a part of the co-creative process that is your job. I talk about it all the time on this channel, so you can go exploring on this channel to find out a little more about how that process works. I'm sure I'll link a video at the end that maybe dives into that a little bit more. But essentially understand that there is a part that is your job essentially as a co-creative being, as a spiritual being in a human body. And there are things that the universe at large, oneness, all that is, will take care of. But if you try and do it for all that is, you add resistance and you don't allow certain things to come in from that process. So again, you can explore this, really extend your awareness if you're not too familiar with this. And also, you can never look at this enough, so to speak. There's always a way to deepen your understanding. Something one of my mentors says is the war cry of failure is, I already know that. Because again, you can always understand these things at deeper and deeper levels. Just because you've heard it once or applied it once or whatever, doesn't mean you know it. Right? Again, applied knowledge is power, not just knowledge. Knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing. So I would just invite you to take that on board if this is something that's resonating with you. In fact, if this does resonate with you, put in the comments, I am co-creating with Source, or I am co-creating with God, or I am co-creating with the universe. Again, whichever one resonates with you the most, I would invite you to put that in the comments. And now let's move on to number 2. And number 2 is learn to be more present. Learn to be more in the moment. Again, this is going to be really simple stuff, guys. A lot of people think the key to making life work are these complex things. Now, sure, it gets more nuanced the deeper you get into it, but the process of being able to live in a certain way that's fulfilling and allows you to live where you're growing and all these different things is actually very simple, and then you will start learning more of the nuance as you keep applying it. So the process will make it so that you keep learning more about it as you keep going. So don't worry about, I need to be here and suddenly know what's over here in my process. You'll get there so long as you're on the process, but you don't need to know everything at this minute. But when you get present, what you actually do is you start creating space for more of the universe, more of Source to come in, to flow in naturally. Abraham Hicks talks about kind of the stream of well-being, and that being the only thing in the universe. There is no stream of failure or stream of heavy, dense emotion. It's the stream of well-being. And are you resisting that stream or not allowing it to come in? Well, when you start getting present, what you actually start to do is start to clear stagnant energy. You allow it to come up. By the way, if you're feeling something coming up, it's on its way out. It's only if you resist it, push it away, distract yourself from it, that you push it back in. But if you just allow it and observe it, you're actually feeling it because it's really about to be released in its own time, and usually that time is pretty quickly unless you resist it. But the more you become present, the more you allow the process to continually work. This is when the space starts to open up because you're starting to clear out and inspiration can start coming in. That inspired next step can come in. That really kind of clarity you're looking for can come in. What also happens when you're in the present and you start clearing out and allowing that process to happen, you allow the universe to kind of take this on without you getting attached to it. What's going to start coming in are more of the high conscious emotions of that which you actually are, like love and light, like peace and joy, like gratitude, fulfillment. Those things are going to start coming in naturally. Again, so many of us have been taught that to experience joy, to experience happiness, to experience abundance, to experience all these different things, it's like this complicated thing you have to do. This is such a rare feeling, joy and abundance and prosperity and peace and calm and gratitude. It's a rare experience. In fact, it is way easier to access these things because it's connected to what you are than these other things. The reason it's so easy for so many people to access shame and guilt and fear and jealousy and apathy and those kind of lower dense emotions isn't because they're more easily come in or more connected to what you are. It's just because they're well practiced in accessing these emotions. But these emotions can be cleared out fairly easily, again, by being present. There's shadow work you can do. There's tons of things you can do that can help you start clearing these things out so that you're rarely feeling them. Like, I'll give you an example for me, like shame and guilt, something I used to feel a lot when I was younger. I can't remember the last time I felt even a twinge of shame and guilt. Now, does that mean it doesn't happen every now and then? Sure. But it's a very rare part of my experience at this level of awareness that I'm currently at and experience that I am at. And those emotions aren't actually very natural to you. We just are so practiced in picking them up. We're so practiced in inviting them and drawing them to us. But in reality, it's actually way easier when you especially learn how, again, going back to number one, the awareness piece of this, becoming aware of how things work. This is why you want to do that, because you'll start to learn, wait a second, it's a lot easier to draw in joy and peace and prosperity and love because that's more connected to that which I actually am, the spiritual being in the human body. Yes, it is way more connected to that. And so when you get in that present moment, again, you are now starting to connect to all that is. You're connecting to what you are. And when you connect to what you are, you start bringing in the emotions that are a part of that, which is the love, the joy, the abundance. I promise you, if you stay in meditation long enough, if you connect to the space long enough, if you do the inner work long enough, when you get really good at this, you'll be able to connect to these things like that. When you get really good at this, when you're practiced in this, when you've developed the muscle for this, you'll be able to tune in and feel these things come in a very real way, very genuine and authentic, pure energy of these emotions come in easily and effortlessly. Whereas again, you'll get to a point where it's actually harder for you to develop fear, guilt, and all these other things, and there wouldn't really be any reason for you to do so, even if you might feel them on occasion, because you need that contrasting experience because you're a dualistic being in this 3D world, but that's okay. Of course, feeling those other emotions, that what you actually are, sounds pretty great, doesn't it? So being present more often, being intentional more often is going to allow for that to happen. All right, so that was a lot of just kind of inspiration to give you there and what was coming through me. So please hit that like button if you are enjoying this so far. It helps it get out to more people who are drawn to this kind of thing and help the channel grow. So that would be fantastic if you could do that, if you are resonating with this material. Now let's go on to number one. Now number one is the part in the co-creative process, or at least a part of it, that is your job. And again, this is so important if you want to, again, get into the part where life is becoming a lot easier and a lot more simple, and you're giving the so-called hard things, the things that you always had a lot of resistance to the universe. You have to start being more coherent, more responsible, more sovereign in the things that are actually your responsibility, and that's taking inspired action, taking action from those higher levels of consciousness. You could say taking action from the so-called higher self or love and light and more aligned to that. Because as you start doing this, you will start noticing inspiration coming in. Now, why is this? Because you've created the space for it to come in. And again, if we go back to that example Abraham Hicks gives with the stream of well-being in the universe, it's nothing else. It's just, do we add resistance to that? When you remove that resistance, the stream flows unhindered, undisturbed, right? It just comes in naturally. That means these ideas, the people, the certain things are going to be drawn to you. There's going to be way more probability of these things starting to come in. However, if you do not act upon them, you will not complete the cycle of creation as far as what it is that is your responsibility. You see, a lot of energy is expressed through action. Yes, it is through thoughts. Yes, it is through words, but a ton is expressed through action. That's why action-oriented people, even those in lower energies, still tend to get a lot more success. Again, they're going to go down a road where they're going to realize that it's maybe not the best way to go about it because they'll get burnt out on all these different things, but you can still come from an inspired place of action. Imagine how powerful inspired action is, right? You see people taking normal action and getting, yes, certain results, but again, because they're not doing it from an inspired or aligned place, it leads to other problems. But imagine what comes about when you take inspired action. You're clearing out, you're aware of how the process works, you're creating that space for these things to come in, and then you are moving in correspondence with that, in cooperation with that. Well, suddenly amazing things start to happen. Life becomes to be a lot more of a flow. Life becomes a lot more easy and effortless. Things start coming in because you've opened up this well of well-being. The universe is literally telling you what you need to do to bring in great things in the physical and other areas of your life. And then if you go do those things start to come in. Very simple. Again, there's nuance to this, but that's the general idea of it. It's pretty simple. If you take these actions, expand the awareness, understand how these things work, deepen your understanding, create the space by being present, tapping and tuning into that which you actually are, using those spiritual powers and tools that you've always had, that we all have, to tune more into what you are and learn what that is and really connect and experience that. The experience is going to be such a greater teacher for you than just head information. You know, when you actually go off and experience things, that's a very real thing, right? You can hear about other people's experience that might inspire you to action. You can hear about certain information that feels good to you and resonates, but it's not going to really be solidified and work in your life to the degree it can until you experience it yourself, right? So when you're drawn to something, that inspired action comes in, boom, you do it, and you're suddenly getting these experiences, which just is going to add more coherence. It's going to add more coherent complexity in a good way, not chaotic complexity, but usually coherent complexity in a good way in your life. And it's just going to beautify your life in many, many different ways. And this is a very simple formula. And again, it can get more nuanced and get more, like, again, deeper levels of understanding and application. But if you start doing this, you will start noticing more beautification of your life. You will start noticing that it's not so like hard for you anymore. You're not having to do all this crazy work you don't want to do. You're doing things from a place of inspiration. You're connecting more to that which you are, which means these energies of love and light are coming through. These energies of peace and joy are coming through. You're taking action from that foundation. You're now in alignment with your words, your thoughts, and your actions, and your energy, all in congruence. Because if it's all over the place, well, you're going to get spotty results at best, right? But when you're doing that, because you have that awareness of how things work, you're creating that space to clear out and also bring in from a much higher level, and then you're taking action from that place. Again, beautiful things start to come in. Now, I did say I would give you another video to expand your awareness and kind of learn how to use this process even more. And one of the things that's really crucial with this is to know how to tap into your heart. So you can go watch that video next right here, and it will give you some ways in which you can do this.